now. Okay, so creating fields. Right, we're going to look at field types. We're going to look at creating a lookup list, which is more of an advanced one. We're going to also look at multi-choice radio fields. Now, not everyone has access to this, but you should. I did actually go through, and I think you might be able to add your multi-choice radio fields. I don't know if you're going to be able to add an actual full form unless you have the assessment plugin. So give me a bell if you're interested in that, or if you've already got one. I'm also going to show you how to add a content field for learning content. That's a pretty cool thing to do too. So let's go through these topics. All right, share the screen. So where we want to be here is we want to be in the Forms tab, and we want to click on Fields just to get a listing of the fields here. And I want to open up an existing field that uses this. Let's see, which was the first one we were going to do? We were going to do field types. Okay, let me show you the field types first. So on the left-hand side here in the filter, you can see the different field types. I'm going to add some of these, but there's a big range of different field types you can see here. And these field types, they all gather information from the student or from the trainer or from you in a different way. Lookup lists, for example. There's some like integer, which is just gathering numbers. There's an HTML field, so you can enter HTML. There's a file, which allows someone to upload a file when they're filling out a document or filling out even those document topics. An email field as well to validate against, make sure those the data entered is a correct email address. There's a big range of different field types in here. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I wanted to target a few. In particular, I wanted to target, let's go for the multi-choice radio first of all, because that's a pretty cool one. I'm going to filter by multi-choice radio. I think I've got some in here I'd like to show you. Here we go. There's a few in here already. So this is to do with the questions that are asked in the learner questionnaire. I'm just going to click on the pencil here. This is going to allow me to open up this particular field and edit it, just so you can see the sort of way these fields work. So at the top here, the multi-choice field's a bit different to the others in that the main information that's of use, and I'll see if I can do some drawing here, is the name. Now the name is pretty important because the name tells you what this particular field is about. And so if you're setting up multi-choice questions, you can create these with the question itself in there, which is pretty helpful. Now most fields use label as well. Now the label will appear just before the field itself, but you can have a blank label. You don't actually have to have a label there, but you can make modifications even to your existing fields that you have for your forms and things. You can actually change, your first name or your last name. You can call it surname if you want to. You can make your own customizations in that way. And you can see there where we've got the different types as well. And there's some other fields here. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there's different like internal types and external export IDs. That's mainly for the eventness fields. And then whether you want the field to be public or private. So maybe there are some fields that you don't want people to see when they're filling out their documents, filling out their enrollments. And then there's some other clever things about only showing for certain course categories, only certain courses see those fields. And then there's design considerations around the height, the width, and the width class. This is when you're using mobile phones and things like that. So most of this is already set up for you. So I'll scroll down now to have a look at these questions. So those people who are creating, there's a few people out there at the moment creating multi-choice questions out there to do some e-learning. This is where the question is. So there's a question field there. This is where you can write your question. You can actually include HTML in here as well. So if you want to bold things, you can use the little B bracket signs if you're a bit of an HTML whiz. And then you can include your options. These are your different answers. So you can see strongly disagree, or disagree. You can have whatever you want. You can also have your own information here to display depending on whether they chose that option. So you might, in this instance, it's not so relevant, but if it was a question that was trying to evaluate whether people had got the correct answer, you might want to say to them, please try again, or please read chapter 3 of your manual, those sorts of things, that sort of information. And then there's, like I say, a number of different options with text to display. And then there's this question about which answer is correct. So you choose whichever answer it is, from 1 through to 6. And then you allocate a certain number of points for that question, because this is related to self-marking multi-choice exams. And then, of course, you can have a different message when they get the right answer, the correct answer, or you can have a message where they get the wrong answer as well. Okay, so that's just giving you a bit of a rundown on how you can create those multi-choice questions. And once you create these multi-choice questions, you can add them onto a form, and the form can mark the results of those particular attempts. Now, we also said we were going to cover a lookup list. So I'm just covering multi-choice radio fields I've done, and I'm going to have a look at lookup lists now, and then I'm going to have a look at content fields. Now, lookup lists are a little bit more complex, so strap in tight, because some of this gets a little bit hairy, but see if you can work with me on it. So lookup lists actually use options, and remember, options is where we saw the locations. So if we click on publish now to go and have a look at options, so publish and then options, we can create our own lists. So if you want a lookup field on your forms, you can create your own list. So click on new. And now I'm going to create, say, a list of, let's say we're going to create a feedback form. Feedback. So I'm going to create a feedback form, and this is going to be my feedback. My feedback is going to be an extension. I don't need to select a form because I'm not gathering any more information. I'm just literally creating a list. I click on add. Here's my feedback. I'm going to click on the tree view over here. And now I'm going to start adding different options to my list. So I'm going to add a child, and it's going to say, I loved it. So this might be asking a question, what did you think about the trainer? And then I'm going to display this series of options. Or what did you think about the course? So I'm just going to add a whole lot in here. Oopsie daisy. I clicked on the... Now I'm going to click above this node. Here we go. And you can see I did a spelling mistake there. So I'm going to go in here, just add, fix that up. Okay, so now I've got my list of options that I'm going to want to incorporate this into a field. So I go to the forms, I go to click on new, create a new field. And I'm going to call this feedback as well. And I could call this feedback course. What did you think of the course? And now I'm going to choose the lookup list. Click on the lightning bolt and find feedback. Here we go. There we go. And I can even choose a default if I want to. I can just click on add. And that's now got my field created. So I've got a drop-down list field. Now, if you want to see that in a form, I'm just going to quickly create a form just so you can see how that looks. So this is like a new form, nothing too special. I'm going to add feedback. Okay, so what I've done now is just create a new form. Don't worry about all this other stuff in here. I will select and make this a process step form just because it makes it easier. A lot of this information here is related to marking these assessments automatically or displaying content when the information has been submitted by the student or by the trainer, whoever's filled out the form. I'm going to click on Add and Preview so I can show you how that looks. Here we go. What do you think of the course? I've got a drop-down menu to choose what I selected. Now, another thing we can do is we can create content. So if we want to create e-learning content, we can do this as well. Now, this again uses another place within course sales. We actually create something called field content. So I've just clicked on the Publish tab there, and then I've clicked on the New button beside Content. I'm going to create a field, and this is going to be Learning Content. Now I can do something like go to YouTube, and I can visit YouTube and grab a, let's say, an e-learning course. Oh. So let's have a look at this one here. Oh. And I can go to Share, copy the embed code here, go back to the creation of the content. Now in this case, because we're copying code, we need to go and view the source code. This is if you want to include a video. I'll include some text to start with. This is a video for you to view. Okay, tools, source code, paste that in, click on OK. There we go. So you can see there we've created new content. Click on Add. Now we've got that created. I'll go back to the form that we were editing. I'm going to add it to that form. There we go. Now we're looking, now I've just filtered, I've gone to the forms and I've filtered by process steps, and this was the new form I created. And now I want to add in that content. So I'm going to click on this green button here to the right. What I need to do first before I do that is I need to create the field that will include the content. Let's see, content field. And we're going to select that we want to create a content field. You can see we've just changed the type. So I've chosen a name for the particular field. So before I linked the field to an option, and now I'm linking the field to some content. We can view it just to make sure we've got the right stuff. That's the right stuff. Clicking on that little magnifying glass allows us to view what we've selected. Click on Add. I'm going to go back to my tab here and choose content. Oh, see. There we go. And I'm going to save and preview so we can see that now in an actual form. And so this form here, we can send this to a customer and they can complete the course, and then they can even tell us what they thought about it. So that's a way that we can create content to be included within our forms. Now, do we have any questions about that? That's quite a bit of information to take on board. I'll definitely be sending out the link, and I think we've sort of come to the end. Let's see, what topics were we going to be covering that we didn't manage to get to? creating forms, which we actually did, and creating units of competency. What I'll do is I'll add creating units of competency to a